welcome. It's Thursday. That means it's another episode of In the Huddle. Today is June 20th. In the Huddle is a really cool webinar that we got going on with three industry thought leaders. We got Jason Nudemacher, who oversees, is owner, operator, so much more. We just call him the guru of a tree company, different tree care companies to the sum of $27 million. The dude knows what he's talking about. So listen, this is invaluable. We got Rob Kane, who owns Automation Invasion. He is a marketing mastermind. And so we're bringing him on for his expertise. My name is Chris Volpe. I've been with Service Autopilot for close to a decade. I've trained hundreds of companies on the software and business acumen. Took over Academy after the lawn care millionaire himself left. And so we're just gathering on a weekly basis and talking about really impactful nuggets for your business. We want to give you really applicable advice and from people who have been there, done that. And so this week we are really excited to talk about AI and how you can leverage AI in your home service business to essentially gain another employee for a fraction of the cost. And so what we want to talk about today is how can you just go essentially on your day-to-day basis, your day-to-day work, start recording it, start documenting it, leveraging AI. You don't have to be a technical writer. You don't have to be a video guru. Just really easy fundamental skills where you can record yourself in a day-to-day basis. And then what you can do is you can start to build out SOPs. And as the owner of your home service business, you can slowly start to replace yourself. And you can have a robust SOPs that is very thorough, but is not taking a long time to build and really easy to replace if something changes. If a policy changes, if an SOP changes, it's really easy to record, all through leveraging AI. So let's chat a little bit more about that.
Yeah, let me jump in a little bit on that.
Yeah,
So,
please.
because obviously, growing several businesses and currently still running them, and coaching other clients, it's really important to have an operating system that you're running on, which includes like how we communicate, how do we do what we do, and how do we impart that information to everybody else so that we have a consistency in our company and we have scalability in our company. So process is definitely one of those things that's a part of that, right? And creating those processes. And I know for us, even through the years of implementing that kind of system in our organization, it was very slow going to put processes together, put them in place, and get them launched and implemented and everybody on the same page. With AI, like it's such a game changer. And I think it's now more than ever, like nobody has an excuse not to put those in place and get their team on board, because you can literally, tell ChatGPT or whatever you're using what you're looking for. It's going to get close. You can perfect it, with what you're looking to, add some prompts or what have you. And in addition, I think another hard part of process is like, where do you store it? How do people access it? And I think with the fact of what you just talked about, Chris, you don't have to make it this big ordeal and so structured that you never get it done. It's like if something comes to your mind, right, of a process you see that's broken in real time, or something you're like, hey, I don't know if that's happening, comes your mind, man, make a quick video, stop what you're doing, take 3 minutes, make a video. And you use something like we talked about in show prep, there's things like Loom that has AI integrated to it. So any kind of recording module that you use as AI integrated, you just make that recording, and now from that, it's going to transcribe it into text, and so you're able to rework that. In addition, you can just ask, hey, categorize into what categories this should be in. Should it be in operations? Should it be in marketing? Should it be in sales? Should it be in one or many of those or all of those? And then also, if you want to, as you're creating this library, you want to create tags, right? So it's searchable. What other things, what kind of tags would we want in this so it's searchable by content category, whatever that is. And so AI is going to do all that work for you. And then you just put it in those in those areas and wherever you're storing that information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
And
no, go for it, Rob.
yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, we were talking a lot about intentionality, and you mentioned just process, right? And I think that's such a big part of what business owners either miss or they're just not able to do because they live in that day to day. And so zooming out and examining like what that process looks like for them and their team. I mean, it's almost an afterthought because you go into the motions and you continuously are, just doing the same things each day, but taking the time to really map that out and implement a process internally, and then trying to solution after that, right? Because when you're able to do that, when you're able to map your own processes and start to document that stuff as well, you're going to see areas of opportunity where you can be more efficient. You're gonna have bottlenecks in the business, but I think having that as like step one is really one of the most important things that we can do when it comes to implementing any solution within the business.
And here's the big problem if you're not doing that, right? And what we're trying to do is bring solutions to make things easier, better, go faster, right? And if you're not creating these processes, what happens, what a lot of people do is they grow their business, right? They're wearing all the hats, they grow it from nothing, and they start adding people before they create a process. And so what happens when you do that? Well, you have people come in the door that have their own ideas, they have bad habits or bad processes that they brought from previous companies, and they're not doing it your way, right? The Chris Volpe way or the Rob Kane way, right? And so you just have this disaster of people all going in different directions, doing different things, all because you didn't create process before you brought in people. And so the smart thing to do is, hey, let me take the time and create these things. What did I do that made me successful up to this point, right? Because obviously you're adding people because you have a business that you solve a problem people actually want solved. They're giving you money for it. You're making enough money to say, hey, this makes sense to keep doing, right? And so once you've got it to that point, it's like, okay, now let me go ahead and create this library of information to get it out of my head of the things that I did that was successful, whether it was marketing, sales, the operations piece, right? How to get those things out of my head and to the people that are coming in the door so they do it this way so we can continue to have that same consistent result that got us where we are today. And those can always be improved on, and that's fine, but you have to start there.
So you remind me of a Grant Cardone, an Uncle G quote. And I feel like they say this all the time. If you talk to any of their employees, if you don't have always, you have nevers.
End up with nevers.
You end up with nevers.
Yep.
And so it really like, yeah, it might be a little bit more work, but this is where leveraging AI really takes it can be overwhelming. Sure, it can be overwhelming if you think like, oh man, I need to document all of my SOPs. Man, you utilize AI, you utilize Loom, like we were talking about. That's LOOM. Highly recommend. We're not getting paid for this. Loom, if you want to sponsor us, we're open to talks. Um, but you utilize that and you just like pretend like it's not even there. Like, so all you need to do is literally go about your day-to-day basis, your day-to-day workflow, and just talk to it, talk to your computer. That might be like the only thing that you got to get over. But if you say it out loud and you've got the video recording, well, guess what? Now you've got that SOP like Jason was talking about. And now the people in your organization can step up and replace you because if you're still, I mean, that's one thing. Oh my goodness. I think that's one of we see these different hurdles of these home service businesses. In the early days, you're an owner operator and you're still in the field. How in the world, how in the world can you continue to improve your business and create SOPs and hire people if you're in the field? So even if you're an owner operator right now, this is something that you can absolutely do. You might be grinding it, and at the end of the day, you're going into your CRM, service autopilot or whatever. Just at the end of the day, real fast, turn on the recording. Well, guess what? Now that's one step closer to where you can step out of the field because you can start replacing yourself either in the office or even preferably get out of the field first, then get the office, record those SOPs, place yourself in the office. I mean, that really just needs to be the natural progression of a business owner. Do you agree, disagree, Jason?
Oh, 100%. And I think the biggest thing is you talked about getting overwhelmed, like just get started. And the way to use, if you don't have always, whatever, is the way to use that appropriately is like just put it on your calendar to spend 10 minutes. Like just get started, record one thing. And before you know it, what'll happen is you'll start saying, oh, okay, this is working. This is great. You'll start doing two instead of one, right? But then just over time, you're going to have this library of information that's now done. You have this complete playbook that you can hand off to your team of how we do business, and then you just perfect it over time. But I think just get started. Don't overwhelm yourself. First thing that pops to your head that you want to talk about, just start talking about it, so.
Yeah, I
So
think when we started talking about this yesterday, like my mind, and probably to a fault, my mind automatically goes into like solutioning and figuring out how to bring this to a level that maybe people can digest or relate to. So we talk about the ability to record that information. Loom is great because it can easily transcribe it for you. What tools are sort of available now that any business owner can essentially implement into their life, and just kind of chasing down that rabbit hole specifically. I'm going to share my screen. So I work primarily with WordPress sites, and let me find my screen if I can. Sorry, one second. I have to cut that out because it's not what I was looking for. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so we talk a lot about in marketing, obviously you need to have a website, you need to have a robust website, you need to have a place for content, but implementing a singular platform to be able to store that information that we're looking for is going to be one of the biggest hurdles that we've got to overcome, right? Because our CRM SA can only do so much. I know that there's some help guides within Service Autopilot, but like, how do you bring that to the level where somebody that's like a kinesthetic learner like myself can apply that on a daily basis? So just kind of thinking through solutions here. WordPress, there are password protection plugins that you can actually get to segment your data on your site for the things that you may want to see internally, the things that you want to expose to customers. So getting a plugin like that on your site is going to allow you to segment that data, that database from the marketing side of your site, right? Just doing some research here. There's this Cognetics chatbot, which great reviews so far. This actually integrates directly with ChatGPT, where you can start to build that knowledge base out. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but if you guys, if it's too much, let me know. But essentially, you're able to build your own GPT through sort of the open AI API backend here with ChatGPT. Create your own API key, and then you can create your own applications essentially via chat, through assistance, completions. If you've worked with ChatGPT at all, these work very similar to that, where you can input documentation, upload video, upload images, and start to create this database of information within your own program, within your own application that you're developing here. This program then can easily connect to this Cognetics chatbot. And so what I envision with something like this is really a password protected landing page that your staff can go to, where maybe all the documentation is in that, or you have a library of documentation, but that chatbot will will also help to point them in the right direction if they have quick questions. So one of the easier ways to be able to just train up a customer service representative or somebody that's working in the office with, the key elements of your business that I feel like could take weeks for them to assimilate, right? But if they're learning as they go, being able to answer those customer questions because you've already answered those within your model, then they're just going to be able to get up to speed, even faster using a solution like that.
Yeah, and it's gonna speed up the onboarding process, right? It's really, I say speed up, it's you're gonna be able to get somebody on the phone quicker, right? Because the answers are available to them in real time without having to stop, put on hold, go talk to a manager, right? It takes some of the training that's necessary where you can do that over a longer period of time instead of having to jam it in to where, they're not going to remember a fire hose of information right away anyway. So I think it's a great solution to use with the AI feature to get people more productive faster. But it takes creating that library of information, having a place to store it, and then having a way to access it in real time for your people. And so, and I think, again, using AI to help categorize that stuff, how to create tags. So it's, and some of that may not be necessary with, just trying to ask a question, it goes and finds that information for you. So great point, great information. And I know this is also something that you can totally help companies put in place, Rob. So if anybody wants to get help with doing that, you certainly do it on your own, but you can help. It's a faster pass or get it done for you. And so just reach out to us, reach out to Rob. And I guess the best way to do that is info@disruptorgroup.com, or you can go into the, is there a way for them to contact us through Service Autopilot?
Yeah, through the marketplace.
Through certified. If they go to the certified advisors.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Mark, go to certified advisor place in Service Autopilot and you can reach out to us.
I'm sure the people who are watching this later, whenever Rob, you showed that, I'm sure all the tech people are like, "Oh, this is so cool."
Yeah.
And all the people who just want to like work in their business, they're like, they're probably just shaking their head. But that's where Rob can come in. That's like Rob can plug that in for you so you can gain the benefits of it, but you don't have to learn it. You don't have to learn how to build your own GPT yourself.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, there's so many simple solutions that are available, right? Like we were talking yesterday about the plant identifier on the iPhones, right? Which is now a native function of your camera. And to me, like walking into the tree industry, not knowing anything about about a tree, like my plant ID today isn't great, but back then it was non-existent. But like that fear of getting your salespeople out into the field and getting them trained up and all of those things, it just creates so much efficiency and and eliminates a huge barrier that you might have getting somebody into the sales seat at your company, because we have something that can do it for them, right? And I know just working hand in hand with Mike at Tree Pros, I mean, that guy's a monster salesperson, but he has a sales process, and if you implement that sales process over and over and over again, it doesn't matter what the tree looks like. Yeah, you've got to know a little bit about pricing and that is going to need to be something that's learned. But when you come in there and you're able to identify, the types of plants that are on the property, it just makes things so much smoother and eliminates a lot of the fear that even I had going out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the common hacks, one of my favorite common hacks, kind of like what Rob was just talking about. Like if there's something new that is like a little overwhelming that you don't understand, or your employees don't understand, or you don't know how to explain it to them, one of the best prompts to put into ChatGPT, and I have talked about this for years, like going back to the podcast that we used to do, SOS Autopilot, with the Roadmap podcast, but the 80/20 principle. So a really simple prompt: teach me the 20% of X that will allow me to gain 80% of Y. So Rob doesn't know anything about trees, which I'm sure you know a lot about now. But like if he was still going in and was super green about it, instead of like learning everything, it's you go to ChatGPT, hey, just teach me the 20% of the tree industry that I need to know in order to run a successful tree business. And that way he is really focusing on what's called, the vital little bit of information versus the trivial, like a lot of the information. And that's gonna set you apart. You become uh, someone who knows about the industry so much faster, or you could teach your team so much faster because consuming 20% of the info is a lot easier than 100% of the info. That's hands down one of my favorite hacks that I've have discovered recently.
What are some ways, Chris, that you're using AI in operations in your cleaning business?
Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously we're going to do like a whole marketing component. So not to go into that, marketing is huge with AI. I mean, you basically can create a marketing manager, a social media manager, which that is just absolutely phenomenal. But I've used it for SOPs. I've used it for we were talking right before we went live. I'm interviewing people for the cleaning company, and I created my job description with Chat GPT. I'm creating, I'll actually go in and say, I'm still kind of new at this and still learning how to do this. So I'll say, hey, what are the things that I'm not even thinking about? What are the documents that I need to have my W-2 employee sign to make sure that I'm staying compliant in the state of Texas? Like you can be super specific, and it'll list it out. It's really good for you can use it just for I always say like instead of just looking at a blank canvas, there still needs to be a human touch there with AI. You can't just rely on it completely. But what you can rely on AI to do is you can have it paint the or start the canvas, and then you go in. It takes it from blank and having that writer's block to okay, here's a draft. It might be terrible, and that's okay because now you can just go and start make tweaks. It's so much easier to make revisions and modifications than it is to start from scratch.
Yeah, it's the best assistant ever. I mean, that's the way when I started delegating things and to free myself up to, work in my unique ability and have the most impact is just delegation. And so I'd have people that would come to me about something. I'm like, hey, why don't you do like 90% of it? Just start it, I'll review it, and I'll give you some feedback on how to make it better, right? So I did that with people, but now having AI to do that and create that saves you so much time, and it doesn't argue with you.
Yeah, it doesn't have feelings, so it doesn't.
Shows up every day.
It shows up every day, 24/7. It's always working. Although I agree with Jared Glant. So we were at one of the Cardone seminars, and he said on stage, he said one thing you need to do is if you're using Chat GPT, you always need to start with please because it's a computer and it's going to remember one day whenever eventually it takes over the human race, it will remember if you said please or not whenever you asked it to do something.
That's hilarious. I love Jared. He's great.
Yeah, that's yeah. One other thing too, I think reports and data, right? We can get certain kinds of reports out of SA and maybe not be able to make sense of that data, especially when it comes to the trends and forecasts, right? And I think most of the companies that I work with, they still have like their own internal spreadsheet that they're using to track various KPIs that are essential for them to monitor on like a weekly, monthly basis, right? So I think implementing or utilizing Chat GPT functions to be able to help you to analyze data or reformat it, so it aligns with how you want to see those reports. I think that's also a critical tool that I know for me, it's literally saved me days over the last 6 months implementing that. Just in my day to day with various clients that I'm working with. Just so much easier to just plug and play and put a command in there and get what you want. It's
So
not
to go,
foolproof. Spot check. It's not foolproof, but it
you
helps.
got to spot check it. And to go full circle, so you as the owner of the business, you're going to want to see those KPIs, right? So most likely you're going to be figuring it out. Maybe you've got a CFO at some point and they're helping to figure it out. But you're the owner. You go into the service autopilot reports are great, but they are limited in some forms and fashion. They can only pull so much data. Sometimes it could be a little bit slow, but it is really powerful to get like just a ton of data. So what you do, go back to what we were talking about earlier. Once you figure out like what reports and KPIs you want, you turn on your Loom, you go to the report center, you get all the data you want, you export it to an Excel spreadsheet. Now AI, ChatGPT, it can actually manipulate data in Excel. That's something that's recent. But you can say, so now you no longer have to be an Excel guru. Like if you hear the term VLOOKUP or pivot table and your eyes glaze over, well, this is perfect. So because what you can do now is you figure it out one time, record it, and then and again, it doesn't even have to be perfect. And then you utilize AI and say, hey, help me create some KPI reports, and it's gonna go filter through all the data and spit out these beautiful reports. Now that you have that recorded, you hand that on to your virtual then it becomes so simple that your virtual assistant can do it. Someone who's not even like a business owner have the business acumen. You're just creating the process of, hey, I need you to do this every single Monday or every single day, whatever it is, and you can have these beautiful reports now spit out on a on a less time consuming basis.
Yeah,
And
100%. Good.
I'm working on replacing that person's job through like a Zapier and because you can export reports with the downloadable Excel link as well. So or time reports with the downloadable Excel link. So there's even ways to make that more efficient. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's insane.
The last thing I'll say before we close out about all this is, especially with, getting involved with Chat GPT and AI and stuff like that, going back to being intentional is like, you just like going on the internet, like you can get so lost going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, right? So, and it's even more so probably with Chat GPT. And so be intentional about what you're doing, stay on track, stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish, get on and then get off so you can stay productive and keep rolling with your business and just, accomplishing and creating what you need to create for the problems that you're trying to solve. So, because you'll waste a lot of time just playing around with it. So if you're not careful. So
Save that for the weekends.
yeah, intentionality in the game, intentionality and focus. So we'll close this out, Chris.
All right, that wraps up another episode of In the Huddle. Thank you. If you have follow-up questions, please message us on Facebook or reach out info@disruptorgroup.com. If you're a service autopilot user, go to the certified advisors, reach out there. Even if it's just a question, please, please, please don't hesitate to ask a question. We're here to provide really valuable information for any home service business, whatever you may be. So really fun discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Next week, we'll be talking about CRM systems and automations, because if you remember, we do marketing, sales, operations, and then CRM systems and automations. So whichever topic intrigues you the most, make sure you attend those weeks and ask those questions, because that's what we're here for. Appreciate y'all. Have a great week. We will see you next Thursday.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.